Welcome to Windows on the World. We're going to have a bit of a news update today with Piers Corbyn. We're going to talk about many things. First of all, we're going to talk about a conference that Piers attended over the weekend.
I went to the Alternative View conference held at Milton Keynes, Alternative View number 8, over the weekend and Monday. And I gave a presentation there about the nonsense of man-made climate change, how it's part of the globalisation brainwashing agenda, and also pointed out the need to vote for my brother. And I have to say the reception I got was tremendous. There were a lot of former UKIP voters there and former disillusioned Labour voters, like from Scotland, for example.
Would there be any disillusioned Green Party and Greenpeace members there, do you think?
I think so, yes, there were. There was also Green Party people.
The reason I say this, obviously, is because of your position on so-called global warming, climate change.
Well, that's right, of course, because there's a big contradiction between them and me on that. But the message came through very clearly that Theresa May is weak and wobbly, and there's already done a U-turn about her attempt to steal off people's homes for relatives in care and so on. So Theresa May's weak and wobbly, and people who are interested in making sure Brexit works do not trust her. And specifically, in the case of the Maastricht Treaty and the Lisbon Treaty, which were part of taking away the UK sovereignty and rights by forcing us into the European Union, Theresa May voted for those treaties. Jeremy Corbyn and a number of others, of course, in both sides of the political spectrum, voted against. And, you know, for this reason alone, it's pretty clear Jeremy and his team know where they're going and what they've got to stand up for. And their fight for a jobs Brexit, i.e. something real instead of this Theresa May jumping up and down, was recognised by people, and a lot of them see the alternative. If you have Theresa May carrying on, we'll have more and more repressive policies, neo-fascist policies they were talking about. But, you know, the point is there was massive support for Jeremy there, and people who've never voted Labour before are going to vote Labour in this general election.
As far as the people there go, were there people in the audience who questioned you on your views and your research into weather?
No, there's people who ask for more information, but they were generally very convinced by the basic facts, which they accept are true, namely that carbon dioxide levels are an effect, not a cause of climate, and if CO2 is a driver, then the idea that manned CO2, which is only 4% of the total CO2, somehow drives nature CO2 is actually a completely mad conspiracy theory. And people recognise that, and they say, well, Piers, that's true, you know.
It's interesting because when the facts are put to the opposition, and we have to call them that now, I suppose, there's a certain agenda being pushed, which we talk about all the time, that they are very short on facts.
They're completely short on facts. There was any globalist there, which of course, you know, the green movement is a globalist movement, or it's been taken over by globalists. They won't have answers to these things, no. But they do appreciate it when I say, look, we don't want the CO2 story's a lie, but there's good things in the green movement, such as defending biodiversity, and we have to keep that, and we have to reduce diesel fumes. And of course, you know, Labour is totally for reducing diesel fumes and you know, biodiversity.
Exactly. Factions of people who seem to be more and more breaking away from that agenda, and that's what the press is particularly worried about, I think.
They are. They're very worried about it. I would say that I made the point there that the sort of anti-globalisation movement is gaining strength in the Labour Party, and it's probably anti-globalisation increasing in the Labour Party and probably decreasing in the Tory Party. And I think actually Theresa May's a globalist, and her aim in this election, although, you know, the way things are going, we can defeat her, but the reason for this election was to increase the globalist strength in the Tory Party and betray Brexit. That's what I think is their agenda.
I think it's a good place to leave that, Piers. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Welcome to Windows on the World. I'm Mark Windows. Now, over the years, we've put out a lot of information. The Windows on the World show has run for several years now. We've exposed corruption, found solutions, and put out some very useful information on many subjects since we started doing this. This includes, of course, the bigger picture, along with well-researched history, science, and, of course, health matters, which we also cover. Now, our initial website was landofthefree.co.uk, and this was set up to fight the corporate courts, rogue bailiffs, and the unlawful actions of public officials. I and many others have successfully fought criminal bailiff companies and won in court against dishonest councils. This information is all still available. The journalistic integrity of Windows on the World is very important, and we tried to put out information that's forensically accurate and simplistic as possible. So we try and put everything out in a very easy way for people to understand, because over the years there's been a lot of misinformation and disinformation, especially with where people stand within the law, and it's got a lot of people into trouble. So we've always stayed on the right side of the law, but being able to empower people to go into court and do the right thing, that's very important to us. Now, I put this information out to the public because I feel it needs to be there. And even within so-called alternative media, there is much information which is misleading and incorrect. In fact, all the things the now ridiculous mainstream media accuses the alternative media of, there are people putting out stuff that's very, very unhelpful, and we try not to do that. So we accept no funding from anybody and are completely independent. And it's now increasingly necessary that we get some help to fund what we're doing. We're looking for sponsors from self-employed small business sector, which, as we know, is being destroyed, and we cover this a lot on the show with the plans for regeneration, the soaring business rates, and the destruction of what we used to know as our environment, because we're finding that people now are being pushed out and socially engineered from the places that they need to be. We'd also like to appeal to individuals who might be able to donate. Now, the donate button on the site, you can just scroll down to the bottom of the page, and it's also on every article and every video on the site, on windowsontheworld.net. Now, I've never asked for any donations before, but things are getting a bit tighter for us, and we want to carry on and expand what we're doing. That's the most important thing, to expand what we're doing and be able to bring you much more information, which is very difficult at the moment because there's just a few of us. So, the bottom line is, if you can spare a few quid and enjoy what we're doing, press the donate button. We'll be very grateful. And if there's anybody out there, small businesses, who benefit from the sort of information that we put out, and we know there's quite a few because we've been contacted by them, if you'd like to make a small contribution or help out in any way, we'd be most grateful. That's the end of that, and we'll see you soon on Windows on the World.